The day they measured my daughter. It's for my 5-year-old daughter. Standing inside a house with 4 empty bedrooms. A game room no one slept in. Closets bigger than our entire kitchen. How? 3 weeks later, a certified envelope arrived at that same front door. Suddenly, the earthquake lasted 11 seconds. The rejection lasted longer. By sunset, our apartment had a red notice taped across the entrance. Unsafe for occupancy. Of his hand, while dust still floated in the air, she pressed her stuffed rabbit to her chest and stared up at the cracked windows like she was trying to memorize them. It's old. Existed. Called one person. My father. Television noise in the background. Laughter, something normal. Dad, I said, the building's been condemned. We need somewhere to stay for a little while. Muffled voices. Mother's tone low, controlled, decisive. When he came back, his voice had changed. You can come, he said. Then he added. Says there's no space for the child. Not Ava. The child. For him to correct himself. He didn't. The porch lights glowed warm against the evening. Through the window, I saw my stepmother's grandchildren running from the game room to the kitchen. Room. Twin mattress. Opened the door before we knocked. He avoided eye contact. Not anger. Just avoidance. Stood behind him, smoothing the chain around her neck. Her smile was perfectly arranged. It's just temporary, she said softly. You understand. I did understand. House was never about walls. Worth. Ava looked up at the ceiling, then back at me. This house is really big, Mommy. Yes, I said. We didn't go inside. Egg. Nodded once and turned back toward the car. There is something worse than being rejected. It's watching your child realize she is. That night, we slept on my friend Marissa's couch. Ava lay beside me, rabbit tucked under her chin, staring at the dark. The arithmetic of favoritism. There's a special kind of math some families practice. It's not the kind you learn in school. It's the kind where one child's needs multiply and the other child's shrink. And graduations disappear. Isn't divided equally. It's budgeted. You're always the expense. Early that I was the independent one. It sounds like a compliment. It's what parents say when they've decided you don't require investment. Sister Claire, Diane's daughter, got a car at 19. Not new, with a ribbon on the hood. Photos. When I turned 19, I was working double shifts at a nursing facility while finishing community college. As for a car, I knew better. Father for help with tuition. I'd figure it out. What really means. Thanksgiving was always the clearest equation. Bowls, glassware, table in the kitchen. Claire's children sat at the main table. Ava, at 4 years old, sat alone at the folding one. When I asked gently if she could join the others, Diane smiled without blinking. Tradition. How tradition always seems to benefit the same people. My father didn't look up from carving the turkey. He just said, "Don't make it awkward." So I didn't. Folding table. Because if she was going to be separated, she wouldn't be alone. More than adults realize. With a drawing she'd made at Grandpa's house. Figures holding hands. And one standing slightly to the side. Holding a rabbit. I stared at the paper. And I hated that she did too. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was sensitive. That my father was tired. With is too sharp. One absence that hurt more than all the rest. My grandmother. After my mother died in a car accident when I was 8, Ruth was my oxygen. Every other weekend, she picked me up in her blue Buick. Her house smelled like cinnamon and laundry soap. The envelope at the bottom. They hide in cardboard boxes. In the back of closets. At 2:13 in the morning. Ouch. Box I had carried through 4 apartments. And found a letter that should have changed my life 9 years earlier. Except existed. Marissa's apartment was silent except for the refrigerator hum. Ava's breathing was steady beside me. I slid the box onto the living room floor. Inside were things I hadn't touched in years. My mother's scarf. Birthday cards in her handwriting. Memories you don't open unless you're ready to bleed a little. At the bottom, Was a large cream envelope. Marked 15 years ago. Press. Chud Lane. Went cold. I sat cross-legged on the floor and broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. The letter was short. Emma. Enough to know that a home should never be something you beg for. Change things so you will always have one. When you turn 25, the trust becomes yours. All my love. Trust. My vision blurred. Patient. The Caldwell Family Trust. Richard Harper. My father. Ago. No one mentioned a trust. No one mentioned anything. On my laptop. County property records are public. Birchwood Lane. 5 years ago. To my father. Sale price recorded. $0. Sold. From that sale. Used as a down payment on my father's current home. The same house that had no space for my daughter. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking real. He had sold my grandmother's house. He had accessed trust funds. Signature. Except. It looked practiced. The man who read the fine print. I'm sorry. This must be hard. He read the documents twice. And said, I didn't just hide this from you. He committed a felony. This wasn't family drama anymore. Criminal. Mid-40s, calm, surgical in the way he spoke. Man who didn't raise his voice because he didn't need to. His office smelled like paper and coffee. I laid everything on his desk. The property transfer. Signature. He didn't interrupt while I explained. Didn't react emotionally. Then he tapped the page where my name was printed, beneath a signature that wasn't mine. Steve, your father had a fiduciary duty. That means he was legally obligated to act in your best interest. But me. He outlined it clearly. Prize distribution of trust funds. Fraudulent property transfer. Notary misconduct. Landed heavier than the last. I expected to feel rage. Like a fog I'd been living inside had finally lifted. I thought I was overly sensitive. Too reactive. But paper doesn't gaslight you. It doesn't reinterpret itself. The documents were clean. We start with a beneficiary demand, Daniel said. Return receipt. He explained that the bank holding the trust records had 30 days to produce all documentation. Signatures don't match, we escalate. He paused. Purchase their current house. Finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The house with the game room. No space. Could be traced. Casual. I stood in Marissa's kitchen, staring at Ava coloring at the table. Are you? He asked lightly. I almost laughed. I said evenly. I'm not upset. That was true. I was done. Fied letter went out the next morning. Tracking number saved. 30 days. For truth to surface. 30 days of pretending nothing was happening. Daniel warned me not to confront him. People destroy evidence when cornered. So I played quiet. Didn't mention the trust. In Birchwood. Didn't mention the forged signature. But something shifted in my father's tone during those weeks. He started asking odd questions. You haven't received any strange mail, have you? Some bank sent junk to the house. The narrative war. They fight socially. Threats. It started with prayer hands. Spurs. Book post that began with. For 24 years, I have tried to love a child who was not my own. That's how she framed it. Not forgery. Ice. Yet, when my phone started lighting up. I hadn't saved. I was heartbroken. Family shouldn't air dirty laundry. Whatever this is, drop it. No one asked what happened. Me to stop. Because silence is more comfortable than truth. Then Dan posted. Long. Carefully punctuated. Who had poured unconditional love into a resistant child. Described me as unstable since the earthquake. As someone lashing out. Never mentioned signatures. 214 reactions. Emojis. Amazing how quickly a narrative forms when one side speaks first. Called that night. No softness now. I'm protecting myself, I said calmly. You're humiliating this family. Sting word. Deny it. He said I was embarrassing them. He knew. Then came the email. If you continue this, I will make sure everyone knows what kind of mother you are, leaving your child with strangers after an earthquake instead of coming to family. The screen. Strangers. The friend who opened her door without conditions. Conditions on a 5-year-old. I forwarded the email to Daniel. His reply came 4 minutes later. Petition noted. The sheriff served the petition on a Saturday. At my half-sister's birthday barbecue. Pink balloons. 30 guests. The day the story changed. There's no thunder. Just fluorescent lights. Inches. And silence thick enough to hear your own pulse. But that morning, the room felt smaller than his house ever had. And for the first time in my life, the hearing lasted less than 2 hours. 4 years of narrative. Condensed into documents. Trust established. Beneficiary. Unauthorized withdrawals. Equity tracing. Precise. Clinical. He didn't need to. My father's attorney argued, family understanding. Said the money had been used for collective benefit. Said I had never objected. Beneficiaries cannot object to what they are not informed about. The courtroom went quiet. Flat on the table. But his thumb tapped once. I had never seen him nervous before. Grandmother took the stand. 82 years old. Clear voice. Did that trust for one reason, she said. So my granddaughter would never have to ask for a home. Her eyes flicked briefly toward my father. I did not authorize the sale. Didn't tremble. This was louder than anger. The forensic report was entered into record. Signatures inconsistent. High probability of forgery. Listed. Commission now under review. The house gets smaller. And losing control. My father called me. Was tired. Sell the house, he said. And for a moment. Room. Looking at all that space. We can't refinance, he continued. Not for that amount. Well, my half-sister had started looking at apartments. The grandchildren were confused. Consequences were logistical inconveniences. Then he said something I'll never forget. Can you talk to the judge, for the kids' sake? The kids? I let the silence sit long enough to matter. There wasn't room for mine, I said quietly. He inhaled sharply. Different how? Were wanted. Because mine didn't carry the right last name. Because space only counts when it serves you. But I didn't ask those questions. I didn't need to. I won't make this harder than it has to be, I said evenly. But I won't make it easier either. One heavier. This time. Didn't blame Diane. Accused me of overreacting. He just said. That was the most honest sentence he'd spoken in years. Because he never thought I would look. He never thought I would question. The house went on the market 2 weeks later. Posted online. Bright lighting. Spacious family home. Almost made me laugh. Open house signs planted in the lawn. Strangers walking through the kitchen. Through the game room. Night. I drove past once. Not to gloat. Smaller. And it was. But symbolically. Anger felt powerful. It felt temporary. Diane deleted her long post. Fans disappeared. Relatives stopped calling. Evidence fades when court orders, when the state gets involved. Criminal court takes something else. This is personal. But forgery. And the day the district attorney's envelope arrived. Something terrifying. This wasn't my fight anymore. The envelope was thinner than I expected. Like seal. No heavy paperwork. Charges filed. Fiduciary duty. Twice. Because I did. Standing, it meant accepting something irreversible. This would follow him forever. They'll likely offer a plea. Fuses, I asked. Then it becomes a criminal trial, testimony, public record, press. Public. Chest. Because civil court feels contained. Criminal court feels exposed. And exposure changes families. Then came the destabilizing call. From my aunt. I didn't push, I replied calmly. I reported. Well, he could lose everything. Interesting phrase. Something similar once. About not having space. For the first time since the ruling. In. Not about the case. 2 days later, Ava came home quiet. Quiet. Yes. Dad. My stomach dropped. A kid at school said he might go to jail. Is financial. First time in this entire process. But internally, justice is clean on paper. It's messier in playground whispers. That night, I almost called Daniel. Almost asked what would happen if I requested leniency. Almost convinced myself this had gone far enough. And that scared me. Still wanted to protect him. For everything. That's the complicated thing about betrayal. It doesn't erase love. A week later, my grandmother called. See me. Asked for a character letter. My chest tightened. Say. And that loving someone does not mean protecting them from consequences. That line steadied me. It stands. The conversation he couldn't control. I was wrong. He didn't follow it with an explanation. No, but. No revision of history. And somehow, terrified me more than his anger ever had. The cafe was nearly empty. It had clinking of dishes. Trembled slightly when he let go of the cup. That detail startled me. He dominated rooms. Conversations. But not this one. He said quietly. From me. The words weren't sharp. He flinched. No redirect. And still. Moment. Back. Fine. You always land on your feet. You didn't need it like they did. Justification. Forward. Pretty. That's not what I meant. You did. Didn't think you'd take it this far. Since hit harder than any insult. Because there it was again. Never thought I would read the documents. Thought I would step outside the role he assigned me. You didn't think I'd matter, I said calmly. And that's when his composure cracked. I always thought you mattered. That landed. Down. He had no response. There an uncomfortable truth. No shouting. Just dismantling. Expect forgiveness, he said finally. Good, I replied softly. He looked confused. Access? It anymore. That was the shift. Not revenge. Chin. He was losing proximity. It's about you, I said. His posture straightened. What do you tell her? Both. That people make choices, and choices have consequences. Hard. What you did. I'm. Just slightly. That was the wound. Not the money. Her question. What consequences leave behind? People think justice ends a story. It doesn't. That follows. After the plea deal. After the house was gone. Grief. Not for the house. For the father I thought I had. You lose a version of someone who showed up to school plays, who taught you how to ride a bike, sleep in the car. It still existed in my memories. But he didn't exist in reality anymore. And reconciling those two versions was harder than any court hearing. No dramatic confrontations. Legal documents. Just space. The kind that feels unfamiliar when you've lived inside tension for years. Something strange. My shoulders didn't ache anymore. I wasn't bracing for the next argument. The next manipulation. My body had been holding stress I didn't even recognize. Least. Also exposed. These can feel empty at first. Then something unexpected happened. Diane called. Not angry. Sounded tired. I didn't think it would go this far, she said. That sentence again. Rise. As far as what? I asked evenly. As criminal court. Still measuring damage in terms of embarrassment. He hasn't been the same. Answer. Guilt. See? Doesn't talk much anymore, she continued. Most of the things from the old house. The old house. Like something historic. Paul, I sat alone for a long time. Not because I felt sorry for them, but because I realized something uncomfortable. Consequences don't just punish the guilty, they transform them, sometimes painfully. Times. The inheritance that wasn't money. When my grandmother said, I thought it was about him. Court. Regret. And what she had planned long before any of this happened. Me to come over. Tea already poured. But this time, Shin didn't only leave you a trust, she said. Instructions. My stomach tightened slightly. In case something like this ever happened. Sealed envelope across the table. My name writ in her careful handwriting. Dated years ago. Before the house. Betrayal. Inside was a letter. Not financial planning. Words. It will not be the money that hurts you. It will be the realization that someone chose control over care. Reading. Because she had predicted it. But the pattern. Son. Another document inside. Fiduciary provision. If fiduciary breach was legally established, a percentage of the trust would automatically shift into a new account. Restricted. And housing. Protected from any future interference. Even mine. You plan for failure. For protection, she corrected gently. That's when it hit me. It was foresight. Structure. She didn't just give me resources. She gave me armor. Not about court. About legacy. It means to build something that outlives ego. About how power can either shelter or suffocate. I didn't feel like a victim. Later that week, called again. Short conversation. I heard your grandmother updated things, he said. I hope you know I never meant for you to feel disposable. Disposable. Word he hadn't been able to say before. And two, there is space. There's no space for her. Living in a house with 4 bedrooms. A game room. A backyard big enough for birthday parties. How? I didn't understand it then. Now, it was about ownership. Cottage for almost a year now. 2 bedrooms. Paint slightly chipped near the baseboards. Front door has faded a little in the sun. But every inch of it belongs to us. And more importantly, Ava doesn't ask if she's too much anymore. She doesn't shrink her drawings. She spreads her toys across the living room floor like she trusts the ground beneath her. I know we did it right. Security isn't loud. It's a child who assumes she belongs. As I think about that old house, about how large it felt, how impressive from the outside, I realized something I didn't see before. It wasn't spacious. Rooms assigned. Granted. Love conditional. It. When power fills every corner. Happened. At our door. Not a lawyer. Just him. No warning. Just standing there. And I considered not answering. But I did. Not defeated. Later. There was no neighborhood reason to be here. Correct him. He glanced past me into the house. Not judging. Just observing. He said. And for once, Ava walked into the hallway. When she saw him. Not scared. He knelt down slightly. Close. Hi, Ava. That's what children do when they feel safe. Their anchor. I nodded once. Hi. He handed her a book. Just a children's book about building treehouses. I like it, he said. She took it. And then she did something that stunned me. His hand. Do you want to see my room? Adults do. To energy. And his energy wasn't demanding. It wasn't dominant. He looked at me again. Permission without words. I stepped aside. He stood in her small bedroom. All stickers slightly peeling. Bed pushed against the window. It wasn't impressive. But it was hers. First time. He was standing inside a room built without his control. Just presence. No speeches. Reconciliation. At the door he hesitated. he said quietly. I replied. He nodded. Isn't the same as deciding. That line landed.